Today I'm going to introduce the data store so that you can save data in between your games. In this video, I'm going to send a welcome screen to a player if it's their first time visiting the game, and I'll also keep track of how many times the player has played. So let's go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to hit the play button. There we go. This is your first time here, and we get a welcome screen or instructions or whatever you want to do. Don't get killed and make fat stacks. That's pretty good advice. So let's go ahead and close it, and then we can start playing. Now when we come back, go ahead and stop the game, come back and play again, hit the play button. No welcome screen because it's our second time, and I have a printout saying you've been here 2 times. I thought that was pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get started with that. So I have an empty base plate here, and we want to save data to our data store so that players will have data in between their games when they quit and they come back. Let's go to game settings, and we're going to save off our game to Roblox. It says to access game settings, save to Roblox. And you could do that over in the file menu too. I'm going to write data store video. We'll do more than one video for data store. But let's go ahead and turn team create off because I'm not going to use teams. Hit save. And there we go. We saved our game. You all know how to do that. Let's go to game settings again. And now we have game settings. Let's go to security. And then right here, enable studio access to API services. This is how we allow our game to use the data stores, the Roblox data stores. We're going to hit that little toggle switch. It'll be green and save it. Now, the data stores are going to be shared between your live games and your studio. So if you change things in studio, it's going to show up in your world. You got to keep that in mind. All right. Now, the first thing I want to do, well, that was the first thing. I want to enable the data store. Second thing, I'm going to add some scripts to access it. I'm going to go to server script service. I'm going to hit the plus sign, get a regular script. I'm going to call this game manager. So this is a regular script. Cool. I'm going to add another script, go to server script service, hit the plus sign, add a module script, right? And this is where it falls apart for a lot of people on my videos. Module scripts are different, right? They're scripts that can be called from other scripts. They don't fire independently when you start up the game, like, server script service game manager would. All right, let's go ahead and call this session utils. So we're going to build a little library that we could use in our game manager. And you can actually use it from your other scripts, other places like in your workspace. Like maybe you want to update scores or something from a component in your game. You can require the session utils. That's how you get a hold of it. So right here we have a table. This table is going to save our functions that we're going to define in here. And then when we require our script, it's going to return it. And then we're going to be able to call stuff from this script. I'm going to call this table session utils. Control Z. I just made this session utils with a lowercase s. This is capital. They don't have to match. This doesn't have to match the file name, but it does have to match the return statement. So this and this must match. Cool. Now I'm going to get another internal table. I'm going to call that session data. And this is going to be just for inside my session utils. I'll just initialize it here. All right, what else do I need? I need my data store service so I can use data store. So I'm going to say local data store service game : get service data store service. Now, you have to have data store enabled in order to get a data store, so just remember that. We did that in the beginning, right, with our little game settings. So now we're going to get a data store, I'll call it DS, from the data store service. And we have something called get data store, right? And you can call this whatever you want, my data. Just remember, it has to be unique throughout your experience. So if you have other places and you want a different data store for those places, if it's in the same experience, you're going to overwrite or interfere if you don't give it a different name. But if you make 5 games and they're all different experiences, you can call it my data all the time. It's not gonna be a problem, right? So it's unique to your experience. All right, now I'm going to make a function that I can call from my game manager. Notice I did not put local. I'm going to make it function, and in order to call it from the game manager, I need to prepend whatever this table that we're returning right here. I'll do a colon, and then this is going to be the function name. Initialize player data. And then we'll have a player that gets passed in. All right, now first thing I want to do inside this function is see if I can get some data from the data store, right? I'm going to make a variable for that data. I'm going to initialize it to nil. I'm going to close this so I have more room. There we go. And we can get data from the data store from a call, get async. It'll return the data. So I'm going to say data equals data store get async, right? So this is an asynchronous call. It means there's no handshaking between the data store and Roblox. It sends off a request, and then this is going to come back with the data if it exists, right? I'm going to use the player's user ID as the key to find that data, right? And that's pretty standard to use that, right? It's unique among players. Cool. Now, a lot of you people know about async calls. They could fail. There could be something wrong. You could get corrupted data or no data at all. We're going to handle that in a minute. Let's get this started first. So data may or may not come back because they may be a new person. Let's say if it does come back, then we're going to get our session data right here. That table right here, I'll just copy it and put it right here. Boom. We're going to use a key. The player is going to be the key for the data in this table. So it's going to be a table of tables. We're going to put that data right there for the player. Cool. And then we want to keep track of our player, of our counts, right? We want to keep track of our counts. So this will have, but does not have yet, something called a count in it. And we'll do a plus equals 1. So every time we enter the game, we're going to add 1 to the count. Now, the player might be brand new. That's going to give us a little more explanation of what this is. They're brand new. We're going to get our session data for the player, and we're going to initialize him with new data. And it's going to be count. We'll say count equals 1. So we're going to start out with 1, and then we're going to increment every time we join after that. Cool. All right, so let's get back to here. What happens if we have a failure and somebody's been playing for years, there's corrupted data, and then we start saving that corrupted data off for that player? They're going to rage, right? It's going to ruin all of their work. So we need to wrap this in a protected call so that if something happens, we get a notification. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a local variable for 2 flags, success and message. I'll call it MSG. We'll call this pcall. Whoops, where's my pcall? We're going to wrap it in where the pcall is going to wrap our call right here in this anonymous function. There we go. And then if this fails, pcall is going to know about it. It's going to send, hey, did it succeed or fail? And if it fails, it's going to send a false here and then a message. If it succeeds, this is going to be true. And then we're going to have data, and it's going to be good. But let's go ahead and handle what happens if we have a failure. So if not success, your brother kicked the internet cable out of the wall or whatever, right? There's something bad that happened. We need to kick that player or do something. Kicking is safest, right? Kick him out, make him sign in again so that he doesn't ruin his data. He'll be mad for getting kicked, but not as mad as having to redo years of work. So we'll say data store. Is that 2 words? We'll call it 1 word. Data store unreachable. Please try again. Please try again. And then we'll put the message here too. All right. So if you didn't enable your game for Studio access, for data store access, you're going to get that message right here. It's going to tell you. So that'll be convenient. It'll kick you, but it'll tell you. Cool. So now when we get down here, we know that either the data is nil because there might not be any. This could still be successful and there still just might not be any data if they're new, or there might be data and we can put it in our session data. So that's pretty cool. All right, now we know that something happened with the data. Either we incremented the count or we initialized the count. So let's save off that data. I'm going to say ds set async without the pcall because there's really not a lot that we've saved, right, since the last time the player has played. I'm going to take the chance on that. I'm going to get the user ID, and then I'm going to pass in whatever their new data is, right? So any one of these, right? The count has incremented. If this fails, like I said, it's not that big of a deal because we're probably going to have periodic saves anyway. So we might just catch up. It's not like when you're joining the game, oh man, years and years of work could be done, right? This maybe 5 seconds, just logging in. You mess that up. No biggie. All right. So if the player, if it's his first time, let's go ahead and send a welcome screen, right? So the session data player count equals 1. That's comparison. Let's just do a print for now. Print, this is your first time here. And then we're going to have a remote event. It's going to fire UI. Fire the UI. Cool. Otherwise, they're veteran players. They've been here for 2 or more times. We're going to say just how many times they visited. This is your, we'll put the number. Let's say you've been here. We don't have to conjugate then. You've been here. And then we'll put the player, what is that, session data? Session data for the player. Dot count times. And Roblox is pretty cool by the formatting. It'll put spaces in there. All right, that's pretty good. Oh, and if some of you guys are curious, you can use this dot notation to access the fields in that table, or you could use this bracket notation, right? You've probably seen that. Both will work. Let's have them different just so that you can see the differences. This will work and this will work. Most people prefer the dot because it's easier. All right, now we've been loading people up into the session data. The session data is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Maybe your server's running for days and days and days. We need to clear out the players that leave the game. So we're going to do another function. We're going to put the session utils in front of it so we can access it from our game manager. And we're going to say remove player data or something. And we'll say, yeah, let's do remove player from session player. There we go. And this is pretty easy with a table of this type. We'll say session data player equals nil. And that essentially removes them from the table. That's kind of weird, I know. If you're like from another programming language like Java, that just doesn't do it. But here it does. All right, so let's go over to Game Manager and utilize this, because if we play our game now, nothing's going to happen. This isn't even going to get called. We need to require it. So over here in the Game Manager, let's go ahead and get our server script service. I'll call that SSS. I'll just call it like that. SSS for server script service. Game get service, server script service. We are also going to need our player service. So let's do that now. We'll just call that players. Game get service, players. And now let's require our session utils. It's like a library. I'm actually going to call it session utils, just like in the other script. You can call whatever you want, just make sure it makes sense. All right, so session utils we will require from server script service dot session utils. There you go. Now you got a copy. So there's going to be 2 things we want to keep track of in this game manager. This is going to be a very simple game manager. We're going to do, we don't need to do game because we already have the player service. We'll do players, player added. So when When a player enters the game, player added event's going to fire. We will connect it to this anonymous function. Player will get passed in because we're capturing the player added event. And then we're going to get our session utils, initialize player data, right? And then we're going to do something very similar for player removing. Whoops, player removing. Connect that to an anonymous function. Player will get passed in because that's what happens when player removing gets captured. We'll say session utils, remove player from session. And don't forget to add player here, or you're going to get an error. There we go. Player and player. Cool. And now we're pretty good to go. The only thing that we got to watch is, well, we don't have our UI, right? But let's play it. Let's see if we get a printout. Let's go here, put the output. We'll hit this play button. This is your first time here. Wow, that's cool. But the real test is to see if it happens again or if it's the second time. There it is. You've been here 2 times. That's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead, and we need to clear our data store when we go to play this again. The way you clear your data store for that player is get this right here, the DS set async, right? Copy that. And then when we do our initialization, we are just going to send false in here, right? And that will clear this out. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to comment this out because we want to test this again as the new player. So we're just going to clear our data store and we're not going to save anything new. Play it. Boom. This is your first time here. We can go ahead and turn this off and we can restore this. I am just going to comment this out because I might want to clear my data store again, right? And then I'm going to reactivate that because it's going to be normal gameplay. Now right here, we need to fire a remote event. We don't have one. Let's go ahead and build our UI before we start working on remote events. All right, so we'll go here. I'm going to close this so we have some more room to work. Let's go down to Starter GUI, Screen GUI, Frame. There's our frame. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the UI. There we go. We did a little bit of UI stuff earlier. Cool. And then I'm just going to keep it frame. Have a text label. All right, that's going to have our information. I will change that. I'll call this message label. And let's go ahead and put a message in. Do some bare bones UI, but we want it to make a little bit of sense. I'm going to call that, I'm going to make that font bangers. Text, I'm going to say, make fat stacks and don't get killed. Exclamation mark. That's tiny, so let's make this a little bigger. Text scaled. Cool, that's good enough for now. Let's go to our frame. Let's add a text button. And here it is. Let's call this close button. Close button. Drag it on down. That's good. We'll just go ahead and change a few things on that. Let's make the font match, bangers. And then we'll call this close. And we'll do a text scaled. Maybe we'll recolor it too because it's kind of hard to see. Let's go to background color 3 and make it whatever you want. Make it like a purple or something. There you go. Cool. And we're going to make this invisible because we only want people to see it when it's their first time. There we go. Now we'll add a script to our frame, hit the plus sign. We're going to do a local script because it's going to be running on the client side, on the player side, on his device or her device. Let's call this welcome. And we need to activate this with a remote event. So we're going to go to replicated storage. Let me make this a little bigger. Replicated storage, remote event. And I'm going to call this welcome RE. Welcome RE. Cool. And let's get a reference to that. Say local replicated storage game get service, replicated storage. And then we'll get welcome RE from replicated storage. Wait for child, welcome RE. Nice. What else do we need? Oh, we need the frame because we got to make it visible, right? I'll just call that FRM. And that's script.parent. we put the script right on the frame. We also have a button, a close button. Let's just say close BTN frame, and then that's on the frame, right? So we should have a close button here. We do. Cool. All right. And then the welcome RE, let's see, there we go. Welcome RE will catch a client event. So on client event, we will connect that. I'll just use an anonymous function. We're not going to have any parameters go through. We already know that it's going to be the first time. I'll say frame visible equals true. All right. And now we have to close that frame with a welcome button, or a close button, I mean. Sorry, close button, activated, connect, function, no parameters, frame visible equals false. Cool, but we didn't do anything on the server side to actually fire this off. So let's go ahead and save this right here. Do a copy. I meant copy, not save. Copy that. Let's go to our session utils over on the server. That's the module script. See that little Lego there? We can go ahead and put our references to replicated storage and the welcome RE right in there. Let's go down here, get our welcome RE, and fire client. It gives you both, right? But it won't work with server. You have to fire client, and when you fire the client, you must specify the client, and that's the player. All right, shall we try it? We cleared out our data store, I believe, but it'll give us a message if we didn't. We can go ahead and empty that. Let's hit our play button. Cool. Did we make this invisible? I'm not sure. We'll find out in a second. This is your first time here. Close. Oh yeah, it is invisible. Good. Let's go ahead and hit this button again. No welcome screen. Nice. You've been here 2 times. All right, you guys got a working data store. You can try it again, get 3 times, or whatever you want to do. Let's try it again 3 times just to make sure. This is where the error happens. Ah, no, there it is. Good. You've been here 3 times. All right, look like it's working to me. Good luck with that, and I will see you in the next video.